For me, my style is just an expression. Fashion was where everything started for me. I started out as a model.
Yeah.
Nice outfits, backstage life, makeup, hair. It was just more like a job then. Yeah, I might not be on the runway, but everywhere is runway for me. Also, it goes back to the one thing I said about how we were raised. My mom was such a stylish woman. Even my dad, like I grew up watching my dad buy really cool stuff for my mom. For example, this ring I'm wearing was actually something he got for her. You can't really find stuff like this anymore.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Women with Audacity. I'm your host Pelumi, and today I have a lovely, beautiful, amazing guest. I have the one and only Ifeoma with me. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to WWE.
Thank
How are you today?
I'm doing really great actually. I feel like today is such a great day.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to channel that energy into anything I have to do today. I usually don't come out of my house on Saturdays, but today I'm like, okay, yeah, so I feel great actually. Maybe I should come out of my house more.
Maybe. But
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, so do you usually just like relax on your Saturdays or?
Yeah, so for me Saturdays are just for, I don't want to say bed rotting because I feel like that has like a negative perception, but really just for resting, watching shows, reading, eating, sleeping, waking up, doing nothing.
So like alone time, basically.
Yeah, even if not alone, like I could have friends over and then we're
Yeah.
just doing those activities together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into the tea of the day, I usually like to ask my guests like 3 questions and you get to pick one.
Yeah.
Just for people to get to know them a little bit or know what's going on with them.
Yeah.
And you get to pick one for me as well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so these are the options that we have. What's the weirdest or craziest thing that's happened to you recently that left you in shock? Or what's something you're trying to learn in this season of your life? Or who is like your favorite like female like celebrity, or it can be like an exec in an industry? Who is somebody that, a woman that is really like inspiring you right now or you find very interesting?
Wow, those are, can't I answer all things?
Oh, you can if you want to.
Okay. Because the ice might be a bit tough to break, so we break it with 3 questions. But what's the first question again?
So what's the weirdest or the craziest thing that's happened to you recently that left you in shock?
The weirdest or craziest thing? I'm trying to think because it really does feel like there's something. But so in what context? Do you mean like something embarrassing?
I mean, it could be that if you're comfortable to share, or it can be just something that happened to you. Maybe you went somewhere and something like just happened and you're just like, that really just happened.
Wow. This is making me realize I think my life is much boring than I give it credit for, because I can't really think of anything.
It doesn't have to be anything over the top.
Yes, I know.
Should we go to the next question?
Okay, let me say something. Like yesterday there was a flying roach in my house.
Okay, now that's actually scary.
Yeah, like
so that's crazy.
Yeah,
to
so
be fair.
and it's shocking because like it's usually like it's a clean space. We've never seen like a roach there before, so that was the first time seeing a roach, and then it was a flying roach. So maybe that shocks me.
I feel like that counts because I mean, the ones that fly, I feel like they are scarier than the like regular ones.
Exactly, and for the first time, it could have eased in. It could have just been a normal roach. And I'm like, oh, first time, there are roaches here. But it was a flying roach. So I'll say, that's probably, and this just happened yesterday. So
that counts. That's fine.
Yeah. For the second one, what's something that I'm learning or that I want to learn?
In this season of your life that you're trying to learn.
When people say in this season, it's almost like
in
one
this era, in
big thing. But I'm really, I would say like something I'm learning just generally is building again, building from scratch, building, like a business, my interests, my hobbies, just building again. And there's a lot of like learning going into that. There's obviously like other things on the side I feel like I want to learn how to do. Just like I want to learn how to produce music.
Ooh,
although I'm not like putting any serious thought into that because I don't have the time, but I would really love to learn that and also learn how to draw again. And I say again because when I was much younger, I did know how to draw. It was just a gift I did not hone early on. I don't even think my parents knew I could draw, but I'm trying to like learn how to like do that again for a very specific purpose anyway. But I would say building again. So building skills,
Yeah.
hobbies, trying to get back to tennis. I haven't like played in almost like,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, in a couple months. So just, yeah, building again generally, socially, mentally, emotionally, financially, just building. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
How about you? I'm
All
curious
right.
to know.
Oh, same question.
Yeah.
I feel like something I'm trying to learn right now is I think mindfulness, because I feel like I've been in a very like go state of mind,
Yeah.
and I've had to like navigate some difficult situations recently that's trying to like, and I feel like they've reminded me that I can actually be present if I actually try.
Yeah.
Like if I intentionally decide not to like just overthink things and just enjoy where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like that sense of mindfulness is something that I'm constantly trying to learn.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you go to the gym?
You see, this question is a very beautiful question. I told myself I was going to start. I have like gym wear.
Yeah.
It's just to go to the gym, pay for the actual thing,
Yeah.
and start.
Yeah. Now, I'm asking because that's one thing that definitely helps with mindfulness, because yeah, the gym, you have to be mindful of like what you're carrying or lifting, or just generally like exercise in any form. But I will always recommend the gym. So
Yeah, and I hear that it helps to build like discipline
it does
as well, which is something,
very
another
addictive.
thing I feel like I need to learn.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
like proper discipline.
Yeah. Makes
Okay.
sense. Then for your last question,
Yeah.
one woman. I think I want you to answer that first.
Okay, so my answer is going to be very random, and I don't think anybody might particularly know her. So for my 9 to 5, I work in like PR, and we get to do like content. We go out to like interview people for different clients and stuff.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, we interviewed the CEO of a company called Mycom Cables and Wires. It's so random.
Yeah.
But I was the one that like conducted the interview, and as I was asking her the questions, there was just something about her that just I was just very fascinated about. I don't know if it's the way she talked about like the power industry or the energy industry, but there was just something about her that just made me feel like this is a boss. I don't even know if I should say boss babe, but a boss woman. And she was just very pleasant and very like, I learned a lot from her. So I feel like she's somebody that has sparked my interest recently, where I want to go and read more about her and what she has done with her company. So yeah, her name is Bukola Ajubi, by the way. That's her name.
Makes sense.
But yeah.
Nice. I'm such a big fan of like discovering people who are maybe not as popular, because I think in this day and age it's very easy to say only the popular people are doing great stuff or like making impact. So when I hear of like new people as well, I'm just always curious, like, oh, how have I not known you before now? So that definitely does make sense. I'll say for me, someone I've always kind of admired, but in recent times it's been a bit more amplified, is I might not know how to pronounce her full name because I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I'll just Mrs. Moji Wosu of Woodhull Capital. Oh my God, I hope that is the right pronunciation, because it would be so embarrassing if it's not. CEO of Woodhull Capital, and I think in recent times I've just paid more attention to her work because she's an investor. She's in the, like finance, space, venture capital. And recently she started doing something where she's looking to invest more in the creative, industry, the creative space. And I think I'm very fascinated by people or women or anyone at all who is able to really create like such a great convergence between creativity and business, because a lot of times we tend to separate those two things, but I think creativity is business and business is creativity. So just seeing her really like add that to one of the things like her company is looking to double down on, I think I've been very interested in that. And I just like her as a person. I like, her thoughts on leadership. I like the way she carries herself. She's very, like pretty and gorgeous. And she also seems like a very like straight to the point type person. So yeah, I've never met her. She doesn't know me.
I was about to ask actually that have you ever been in the same room?
No,
with
we've
her?
never been in the same like room or space. It's one of those things where like when something you're trying to do in a particular like period of your life, when you see someone else doing it, you kind of focus. So in previous like years, I haven't really been in that space where I was actively thinking of like a convergence point between like creativity and business. I was very like business because like I had to like lock in and go like full on business mode for the last like 4 or 5 years. But now just seeing someone who's in that, you kind of want to get examples. So she has been like someone I'm just like, I've always known you, but now I'm paying more attention. And, you know, just wanting to learn more from her, from afar or up close if possible.
Yeah, so, who knows, you might meet her like anytime soon.
You never know.
But yeah, so before we get into today's conversation, which is centered around building a life of substance, I want you to kind of give us an introduction to who you are. But I will say this, so if you were to meet someone right now who has not known you for the X amount of years that you've been alive, literally, and they want to know who Ifeoma is, who would you tell them you are? And this can be in the context of your career, your personality, things that you love, you know, how far you've come in your journey. How would you introduce yourself to that person?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like to answer it by saying that I what I do is usually like maybe the last thing. And when I say last thing, I mean maybe 1, 2, 3, and it's number 3. And there could be 4, 5, 6, and it's just right in the middle somewhere. Because what I do or what we do as people changes a lot. So I've kind of stripped myself of the pressure of defining myself by a title that is attached to a company, although it does feel nice when like it exists, you know, to say you're the CEO or something or the head of something or, you know, associates at somewhere. But if I were to introduce myself, I would say my name is Ifeoma B. Nwobu, and I like for people to know what my name is, first of all, because the name is an identity tag. The name is almost like a prophecy, actually, especially Nigerian names. Nigerian names are not random. You know, you hear someone's name and you can kind of like go to their parents and ask them the story around their birth. So saying my name is something that, you know, always first, like if you don't attach anything else, but then after that, I would say really like I'm someone who, I'm a child of God, and that is the number one thing that my entire identity is built around. You know, that's where even my name finds its meaning. I'm very faith centered, very faith driven. That's like the only, like without that, there's really like everything is blurry. I would say that. So I'll say that. And then coming to other things like what I do, I'm many things, but in this point in my life, I'm also seeing the need to be able to tie all these things together. So I'm a creative business person.
Okay.
Right now, I'll say I'm a writer. I do write, and it's so funny because this was something I discovered I could really do just last year. And so I started, you know, a weekly newsletter that I've been running for almost a year now. Every week sending newsletters about different things that are just common with the human existence, emotions, work, confidence, life, finding balance, dealing with fear, just anything. It's non-fiction. I always hoped I would eventually become a fiction writer, but you never know. So I am a writer. I'm looking to become a published writer someday. And I'm also like the ex-chief operating officer at Senstack. Senstack was something that was was or is my company that I worked on for the last 4 or 5 years. But in the last couple months, I knew that it was time to, you know, I don't want to say move on from that, because saying move on from that kind of gives a negative connotation, but separating the company's needs and my personal life, like they're two different things, right? You can build something and it's not what you end up doing for the rest of your life, especially as a young person. You know, that was probably one of my first proper introduction into business, into structured organizational business. Or second, actually, not first. But yeah, so I would say that I spent the last 4 or 5 years doing that, but currently I am exploring like other opportunities, other industries, but I'm not really like or I don't really have like a 9 to 5. I would say a lot of my life right now is researching what's really going to bring me like the most fulfillment for the next decade. I would say SenseStack was a very instrumental part of closing out the last decade of my life. And it was only in retrospect that I realized that this is like year 10 of this thing. Like this is the end of year 10 from 2015, so
long time.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say if there's anything I wake up and do every day, it's just writing, researching. I'm a builder at heart, so there's always going to be something I'm going to build at some point. I just don't want to talk about it prematurely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and apart from that, I'm a gym girly. I'm very big on fitness and health. What else? I would like to say I'm a sports person, but I've not played tennis in months. So
what sparked your interest in tennis? I'm curious.
That's interesting, but it was a fashion for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So last year, I do this thing where I have birthday shoots that mean something, that have like a central theme. So earlier in the year, I think around like June last year, I got the word for the theme of my shoot. It was victory.
Okay.
And the best way to portray victory is by showing like a sport. There's winners and there's people who don't win, losers. So victory, I started thinking, sports, what sport kind of makes sense. It was tennis for me because of the fashion, because that's one sport I feel like I'm able to merge my interest in fashion with. And so because I knew I wanted to do the shoot ahead of November, I was like, I don't want to be phony ass. Like I don't want to be like fake and just like bring tennis rack with a shoot. I want to know how to play it before my birthday shoot. So I picked it up then and got a coach, started playing like every week. At some point, I probably want to do competition level, but there's too many things to do in this life, and I don't want to underestimate how much focus it takes to start playing sports competitively. So that's the background. I wanted to use it for my shoots, but then I also wanted to be very original and not just something I use as a prop. So yeah,
I find that very interesting. I wasn't expecting that answer actually. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And just from hearing you like talk about yourself, I feel like one thing I've picked on, and I think this is something that also made me feel like you were the right person for this conversation, is there's a lot of intentionality behind a lot of the things that you do.
Yeah.
And I've followed you for a while, and even with your posts, you're not just posting to post. Even if you are just posting for vibes, I feel like there's something there that is being said, which I find very, very refreshing. So to go into today's conversation, or rather to kick it off, what does substance mean to you?
Substance.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm really looking forward to your answer, because you said things like how you're a builder at heart.
Yeah.
And even when you were describing this whole like tennis thing, the way you said you wanted to be original, I can tell that you're not just somebody that just does things for the sake of it. So what does true substance actually mean to you?
Food. Like
food.
I'm joking. Like, so when you say substance, it's such a vague thing. Like substance is like something. That. So essentially, substance in the literal term is something that can be held onto.
Yeah.
Something tangible, something that you can not just imagine, but like there's some sort of evidence, even if it's still small or tiny. For me, substance is, in this context in which you're asking, I assume about life, and like you said, the theme of this is building a life of substance.
Yeah.
Substance is doing or having things that really make sense or add up, that are very tangible. And let me give a bit more context. We live in a time where we get super excited by ideas. I think now more than ever, it's so much easier to generate ideas. Like if you wanted to generate a business idea right now, you could go on ChatGPT and ask very specific questions, and you could get like a list of thousands of things to do. But ideas will always just be ideas. I think substance is being able to bring an idea to life, being able to formulate something in your mind, imagine it as vividly as possible, put it on paper, and create it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a business or down to really mundane things like a picture, like for your birthday. Like you imagine that this is the message you want to tell, and everything goes from being a random idea into something that people can see, feel, touch, and be impacted by.
Yeah.
So that is substance. It's doing, it's action, it's evidence, it's felt, it's not just in your head. So that's
I
how I
love
would describe that.
Would you say that substance and fulfillment are kind of tied? Because I feel like you've said this thing about how even if it's like major things or mundane activities, just random activities that, produce something, whether it's impact, whether you're gaining something personally, would you say that living a life of substance is key to like feeling fulfilled?
Of course. I think this is probably the number one reason people don't feel a sense of fulfillment, because a lot more people are talking and not doing. And you can only talk for so long. I mean, if talking is your doing, it's a different thing, because there are people who create a life, from talking. There are teachers. There are people who have to, lecture people on certain things. There are people who have to write, because writing is a form of talking. It's, an expression of, speech.
Communication.
Yeah. So if talking is doing, for example, we're talking, this is a podcast, but beyond just having this conversation, there's a way you've thought of the different guests and how you want to host it, and even how big you want it to become eventually. But we are talking, but it's work, right? So I think that we do a lot more talking sometimes than doing. So I'll just give some context. One of the reasons I did agree to be here is when reached out to me, I usually don't take like podcast invites, and the reason is because a lot of people, they will want to start with the biggest possible names or people they can reach. Now I'm not saying I am a big deal, but I'm not saying I'm the biggest thing that someone can, or person that someone can try to reach. There's people who have more like reach and impact and influence than I do. But when I looked at your profile, I was like, the setup is intentional. Like she is doing it well. Like she's putting it on YouTube. Like she's having conversations, even if it's not at 1 million views yet, it's good. Like I can see something, and I can see myself fitting into what you're doing, right? So I think that for people to feel a lot more fulfilled, you just have to be someone who can go from having ambition to translating that into action in any way, shape, or form. And the thing is, a lot of people think that you have to do this, saying this means that it has to be something big. But like I said, it can be something as little as planning your birthday photo shoot, planning your outfits for Sunday, saying that you want to post on Instagram once every week. You want to post about something once every week. Saying that you always want to wear nice clothes to church on Sundays. So then you now go back to the drawing board and say, what do I need? How can I do this? How can I get there? And when you see it come to life, there's something about your brain that tells you that like you are that person. Like you can do anything. If you could do this, then you can do anything. And it's then becoming someone who can replicate that with as many different things until you find the one thing that brings you the most joy, brings you the most money, reaches the most people, and influences, impacts their lives, or just gives you joy that nobody sees really. So I do think having things that you can see does definitely is something that creates a sense of fulfillment. That's the essence of life. I mean, I know there's concepts like faith and hope, which is like things we haven't yet seen, but those are more like high level stuff. And if you have faith without works, it's dead. So
I love that. So I think my next question would be, would you say you've always been somebody that has been driven by this intentionality mindset, so to say, of, getting things done to achieve certain results, to building like a life of substance that would lead to fulfillment?
So I'll start by saying that the way we're raised and the experiences we have in our earlier years do have a big role to play in how we turn out, or the kind of lives we create or think we can create. And we probably don't give those experiences enough credit. And I say this because there's a temptation to make excuses out of those experiences instead of seeing them as pathways to creating the life that you want. So for example, you can say, you didn't really have present parents who were always working, or maybe, your mom did this, your dad did that. And when you eventually see that maybe that wasn't the most functional way to be raised, you sit with those things as reasons to not create the life you want. But there are people who are able to become great, not because of how they were raised, but in spite of how they were raised. And I think, or in spite of things that happened to them. I did have, and I still do, my dad is still very much present and alive, but I had parents, and I say had because my mom is late now, but I have so weird, like this, had to have when one is still alive, but I have a parent who has always raised me to just be a confident person outside of what we had at home or not. And we did not have a lot. Like there were, I watched my dad, struggle in ways that a child should probably not see or be exposed to, especially when my mom fell sick. It was really hard, taking care of the bills, the hospital bills, and it ran on for 5 years. She was sick for 5 years, which I think is a testimony now, because people don't have cancer and stay alive for 5 years.
Yeah.
So it was a process. And I remember the day she died, my dad told us that he knew she was going to die, and she died that day. Right? So I saw things that a child, should not have been exposed to. But at the same time, it's that thing where, like, I've just always been raised to know that bad experiences or sad experiences are kind of like ingrained into the beauty that eventually comes out of life. And I say that to say that, yes, there has always been some intentionality, but it's not in the way that is glamorous. It's not in you live in a highbrow area and you're exposed from small to play a music instrument or play sports the way I would want to parent my children now that I have that exposure. Or you travel twice or thrice every year for summer. No, it was not that. It was intentional, but with the real vulnerable struggles, and I would say that I was not always I was not always a self-starter.
Yeah.
But there was something about being around people who are able to do the things that I want to do that propel me into doing the things that I should do.
Yeah.
So it's like the example I made about Mrs. Wosu of Woodhull Capital. Like, I'm trying to do something now, and I need a great example of what I'm trying to do. So when you surround your environment with people, you might not be that way, but it's just like the fire effect. If I turn on like a fire here now, there's chances that other objects would catch
on. Yeah.
fire. So I would say, yes, it's always been there, but in its very raw, state that is getting more refined and refined and refined the older I go. But it was never really like a design, like, we sat down and we designed a strategy of how my life is going to look and this detail is going to be so. No, it was never that. It's just making the best out of even some of the worst experiences.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one thing that I learned from what you've just said is how, like, we as human beings are kind of conditioned to look at experiences from a particular lens.
Yeah.
Rather than truly, like, maybe, I don't want to go deep and say like dissecting them, but like just not letting certain experiences define what we can be or like our potential.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of courage as well, because you said when you started your point, you talked about how like it's very easy to settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
But just like, again, it just goes back to intentionality.
Yeah.
Like I had said. So the next question I'd like to ask, I mean, this podcast is called Women with Audacity.
Yeah.
And aside like, loving and admiring your personality as an intentional person, personally for myself, there are other young women that I know who kind of follow you, who kind of look up to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like bringing the conversation back to the context of women, I think growing up, from what I've seen, I know that society tends to try to define what substance or fulfillment should look like for a woman, or even for young girls.
Yeah.
From your perspective, if you were to speak on that, how would you say that society has done that in some not so great ways? And how do you think the women of this generation are redefining that? Even yourself, how do you think you are redefining that and just changing the narrative?
So your question is how I think society has played a role in shaping women's mindsets about building a life of fulfillment.
Of substance, yes.
Yeah, and what I think more women are doing in today's age to change the not so great narratives.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start with the first part of that. I'll start by saying, as with everything else, nothing is going to be perfect. I think expecting a very heterogeneous society to get everything right for every single individual, I think that's a bit unrealistic. It's kind of like democracy, and sorry, like I like to use these terminologies because I study politics, so there's a lot of like how there's a lot of like how I see like society from a very like political like point of view. It's kind of like democracy in Nigeria. We have 36 states and how many local governments? Over 700. And it's kind of impossible to expect that every single law or policy will sit right with every single person at the same time. So what I'm essentially trying to say is it is expected that society goes wrong with some things. It's like you have to expect that.
And get everything right.
Yeah. And having that expectation sort of prepares you to be a person who is then hungry to want to do better and change it, as opposed to being okay just being on the receiving end of whatever society. Like, you are society too. So that's something that that's just the first thing. But I would say, just practically speaking, I don't think that society has done a great job helping women become or be confident in what they can really do and in who they really are. I think that we try to, even from really young ages, we try to just create a really small box where each woman should just exist. And even in some societies, it is so literal.
Yeah.
It's literal. For some societies like Nigeria and Africa, or some parts of Africa, it's a mental space. But in some societies, it's literally physical. Like, women, you're here. This is what you can do. This is where you belong. This is the only thing you can do. And nobody was created to not have some sort of expression of what they have on the inside. So from a really young age, you're kind of socialized to build your entire life or identity around the concept of marriage, which I do. Like, I want to be so married, I believe in the institution of the man-woman marriage. But I believe in that now from a place of being free and having the choice and knowing the right things about it, and knowing that a good marriage is going to be an accelerator and not something that, diminishes my abilities or potentials. So I don't think that society has done a great job. I think that the way we raise women is very unilateral, and women are so diverse. Women are so dynamic. Like, women can do so many things. Maybe not everything as much as the male counterparts, and vice versa. Men can do everything that women, can do. But to think that every woman should kind of like be the same, or to let out ideas that makes people think that women should be the same. I'll give an example. In recent day and age, there's something that has been happening with how you define femininity. Soft-spoken, girly,
pink,
very demure. Like, so if you're someone who has any semblance of presence, strength, audacity, confidence, you're seen as like masculine, you're giving masculine energy. I've gotten that feedback like a couple of times that, I give masculine energy, and I'm open to feedback.
Really?
Yeah, I'm open to feedback about things that can be better, maybe the ways I could relate to people, but taking that thing that is actually a strength and creating a negative narrative, because when you call it masculine energy, you're saying that I'm not being who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, like your makeup.
Yeah,
what people are expecting.
So it's things like that. I'm like, what's wrong with a woman who has a deeper texture of
charismatic.
voice, for example? What's wrong with a woman who likes to, she doesn't really fancy all these fashion things, What's wrong with the woman who is, even for example, she wants to be a business owner? What's wrong with a woman who is comfortable being a housewife, a mother, alone, without doing anything? Because there's now another extreme where in this day and age we're kind of like, oh, you can do it all. And I'm like, yeah, you can do it all, but we're not supposed to do it all at the same time.
And it's okay if you don't want to do it all.
Yeah. So it's just like making sure that we're correcting extremes by not becoming extreme. I really think that even when I think about it from the spiritual point of view, God is so limitless. And he took the time to deposit elements of his being limitless in billions of people that exist around the world, because every human being is made in the image and likeness of God. And so imagine trying to put God in a box. I think that when we think of it outside of even people, we are literally telling ourselves that the person that created us did a bad job putting those elements in us. Like, people will be, women are not made to all be introverted and shy or put together and centered. It's okay to, if you're clumsy, like, and even if you're going to have to improve that, it should not be on the basis that this is not how a woman should be. It should be that, oh, this is something that affects your relationships or your interpersonal relationships. This is something that affects your productivity at work. This is something that affects your attention span. Not, this is not how a woman is, like, be put together, cross your legs nice. Like, girl, I'm not lifting how many hundreds of kgs at the gym to be put together for you, So I think society has not done the best job with just letting young girls just understand that, look, you can be so much more and so much more defined within the boundaries of the entirety of who you're supposed to be. Because when we say you can be so much more, doesn't mean you can be everything, or you should try to be everything. And I think what we're doing in modern day, is things like this. You have a whole podcast dedicated to highlighting or spotlighting women who are different, women who are doing great stuff, changing that narrative. I think we become a lot more like vocal or aware, even about things, sensitive conversations around the complexities of motherhood. Because if you tell me that that's all I'm supposed to be, you're supposed to tell me everything as much as possible that is involved in being a mother of one child, but you expect me to have 10. So I think we're definitely doing a good job just being more informative and giving people the chance to really choose. Because the thing about choice is, it's not true if I don't know what all the options are. So I think one thing we're definitely getting right is just, although it has its own downsides, because then it's like information overload, but I do think that it's a good thing that we're talking more, having more conversations, really like taking away the shame that would typically exist around certain conversations before now. So
yeah, I love that, actually. And I think that, like you said, different should I say different countries or different places have like boxes fit for women. I think like Nigerian women in particular is just ridiculous sometimes. And it's not even just men that create these boxes sometimes. And I think it's going to take a lot of unlearning and learning for everybody. For sure. But on a personal level, bringing it back to you,
Yeah.
when would you say in your life so far have you felt like most fulfilled? I know it's a very very specific question to ask, but like when's that like moment that you've had so far where something just and you're like, oh wait, okay. Like you just felt a sense of assurance within yourself. Let me put it like that, with everything you're achieving or you've been able to achieve to a certain point. And this can be with anything. Personally, your career, anything.
So one thing about me is I never leave my moments of fulfillment in the past. I never. There's never a time where anything I've done before feels like the greatest thing I would ever do.
Yeah, I love that.
Like never. I so when we started this conversation, you're like, how are you feeling today? I was like, I feel great. You know. So, and for me, it ties back to the thing of my fulfillment doesn't come from what I do. Yes, I feel fulfilled doing it. But my biggest goal is actually that people feel more fulfilled receiving what I do than I feel fulfilled doing those things. My fulfillment really comes from just being myself, from just being where I am today, doing what I'm supposed to do today.
Yeah.
Little things. I got these braids done, they look nice. I feel great. You know, my skin looks nice. I feel happy. Got my nails yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and these things don't make me who I am. It's more like outward expressions of, you know, what's really on the inside. So I never leave my biggest moments of fulfillment in the past. It's such a trap, you know. I believe that the best days of my life are today and then the next day. Today and the next day. Today and the next day. Like there's never anything where I'm like, oh my God, I miss 2022 me. I love 2022 me. I love 2020 me. I love all the collective me's.
Yeah.
But I really, you know, I'm just happy right now here. And a lot of people expect that, oh, your fulfillment should be tied to one thing or one phase of your life, but you're literally responsible for creating that sense of fulfillment. A sense of fulfillment is not something that drops out of nowhere.
Happens.
You create it.
Yeah.
And when you know that you have the power to create that fulfillment, it means that you're always constantly carrying it along. So for me, it's really in just the being than in the doing. And I think the best part of that is that frees me up and gives me the liberty to then do. I don't feel trapped. I don't feel like there's ever anything I'm doing that, oh, if I stop doing this right now, like, would I? Like, no, girl. You know, like, actually, like, left to me, I'm not really someone that is so big on, like, making my entire life about work. I do understand the importance of hard work and really being intense with it. But if all that was to end right now, like, I would be fine, or at least for the most part of it. There are days when I do feel, you know, oh, like, what am I doing? And all of that. Those days exist, but they're never. I give myself time. It's like, okay, from today, feel this thing you're feeling. By tomorrow, better be done and know that this is not how you can continue to wallow. But are there things I'm proud of? For sure. There are things I'm so proud of. I'm proud of the work I did at SenseDac. I'm proud of the idea of like taking something from 0 to 1. Before then, I you know, I didn't know as much as I know about like things like, you know, raising institutional investments, multiplying that, trying to get like, you know, returns. Anything else I did was probably, and that's the point. I did great stuff before SenseDac, but you can see how the next thing is always bigger than the last
There's a progression.
thing. Exactly. Yeah. So I do believe that as a human being, you have the power to create that upward progression, you know, for your life. And so for me, today is the most fulfilling day of my life, and tomorrow will be the most fulfilling day of my life. So yeah,
that's such a refreshing way to, because I feel like as somebody that I don't say does the exact opposite of that, because I tend to get very like anxious
Yeah.
and overthink a lot of things. But just listening to you speak, I'm just like, truly, at the end of the day, we kind of have control over our
Yeah.
lives as much as we can. Obviously, we're not God, but
Yeah.
there are things that we can do
Yeah.
for ourselves. And I'm about to ask you a very random question
Yeah.
about like your personal style.
Mm.
Because as you were speaking, another thing that came to my head was the first time I saw you in real life. And I know this is probably very random.
What was that?
But
I'm
it was at
curious.
CCI.
Oh,
It was my
okay.
very first time attending the church. And I think you had like a white
Which of the branches?
dress on the mainland at Ikeja, I believe.
Mm.
Yes. And you had a white dress. And I just saw you walk past. And in my head, obviously, I follow you. I had never seen you at that point. But there was just something about your style that was like, if I was ever going to ask you one question, if I ever had the opportunity to speak to you, I would ask you like, what inspired? That's why I said this is such a random question.
Yeah.
But what inspires like your personal style?
Like freedom, expression. Oh my God, I can't imagine like wearing ugly clothes or like clothes I don't like. Like that's so boring. Oh, I will be sad, you know. So for me, it's just I like this, I like this, I like this. Okay, you know, I'm very experimental as well. Like I can switch it up. I can dress like a proper like woman, you know, red dress, you know, slay corset. Today I can wear, you know, trousers and a nice stylish top. Tomorrow I can wear baggy clothes. Next tomorrow it's like, you know, it's shirts and jeans. And I'll just try to not look bad. So I think for me it's just expression. It's like my style is actually more dependent on my mood than most people may realize. You know, so even recently I started wearing a lot more color because for me that just like is symbolizes where I'm at mentally. Like I feel like I love black. Black is that girl forever. Black is useful. Black is functional. But sometimes there's I don't want to sound too deep, but there's a spirit behind you know, like everything. So if you wear black, you can just I'm not being superstitious or anything, but there's literally random, but black causes more heat. So even something as little as that, it's like today I don't want to be sweaty on the inside, so I'm not wearing black. So even something as with as much empirical evidence as that, it doesn't have to be spiritual. So let's not even. So I think for me, my style is just an expression. I have a background in fashion as well. Fashion was where everything started for me. I started out as a model, and so I got exposed to nice outfits, backstage life, makeup, hair. Although I didn't really care for it in the way that I probably care about it now. It was just more like a job then. But right now it's taking that like, I might not be on the wrong way, but everywhere is wrong way for me. So I have that. It's just on the inside, and it's something that can be learned. And also it goes back to the one thing I said about how we were raised. My mom was such a stylish woman. Even my dad, like my mom, I grew up watching my dad buy really cool stuff for my mom. For example, this ring I'm wearing was actually something he got for her.
So beautiful.
Like exactly. And this is a more like new age thing, but it's like you can't really find stuff like this anymore. Maybe you can, but I don't care to look. So I grew up like seeing that, you know, there's so many clothes I have today that, you know, are probably like from my mom's, you know, old stuff. So I have that exposure, I can't lie. But for me, it's really an expression of what's on the inside. I probably also want to do something in fashion again. I don't know what it is yet, but even if I don't institutionalize it, I think it will always be part of me personally. Like I would always show up somewhere and wear red lipstick, or you'd compliment my hair or say that my shoe is nice, and I'm not doing it for the compliments, but you just always notice. I think it's so boring to live your life like ugly clothes.
It is actually.
But
I'm glad I've asked that question now, because I was itching to ask you. So my next question for you is, what beliefs or values would you say shape like your lifestyle decisions, or just your decisions in general? I know you've spoken about your faith.
So obviously one is faith. That's, I won't say as self-explanatory, but I'll just say that everything I do, I'm believe is shaped by the principles of God, Jesus Christ. There's nothing he has told us to do that is a lie or harmful. I'll give you a very, random example. When we talk about celibacy now, and people are coming up with like psychological reports of how, celibacy is much better. I'm like, the Bible don't said that. Like, the Bible said we should do this over 2,000 years ago, and now you people are just coming to act like it's some like discovery. So it's stuff like that. So, now we're hearing more people say like there is not one single benefit of alcohol. None. I'm like, oh.
So you didn't know when literally. Like,
exactly, like the principles of the Bible. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere in the Bible says don't drink, but it says don't get drunk, which means like excessive like dependence on alcohol, literally. I'm like, oh, welcome. It's nice to have you. It's always, and it's not even to be intellectually superior or anything. It's just like or judgmental. Exactly. It's just like, wow, I'm happy you guys have discovered this now, but I wish you would have saved your time all the while. So everything I do is centered around the word of God, the precepts and principles as laid out. But beyond that, something else I do believe in for decision making is I believe in the principle of rationalism. I do believe that every single individual is born with the ability to think first. I think it was John Locke who spoke about how we're all born tabula rasa, which means that there's nothing, when a new baby is born, there's no, it's a blank slate essentially, but then you have a brain, and so your brain should be the first point of like adding to that slate. So you do that by asking questions. Why do I want to do this? Why do I believe in this? For example, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a Christian because I was raised in a Christian home. That might have influenced it, but I know the turning point of my Christianity. I was a Christian as in fill the form when you're like doing an application type Christian. But right now, it's different because I made that decision. I've read about other, religions, other, beliefs, other things. I'm like, these things don't add up. Even historically, they don't, like, it's not making sense. So I do think that I do believe in the principle of rationalism, that if people just thought more, as you think, that's how you are. There's a quote that says that as a man thinketh, so is he. So I believe that our ideas and decisions should first of all be centered around the thoughts that our minds have the ability to produce. It's like I can sit right now and without reading a book, I know what I think about love. I know what I think about fear. It's a different conversation about is this right or wrong, because where you now start to say, okay, this is a better approach, that's a better approach, is when you now start to compare it with other people's thoughts about that same thing. But independently of social media, even reading a book, as great as reading is, I just believe that you can just think. And I hope to see more people do that.
Okay, so let's go a little bit into your faith journey. How did it start? I feel like that's a weird question to ask, but
it's not weird at all.
What would you say your first how did your relationship with God start? Let me put it that way.
For me, this was probably one of the most pivotal moments of my life, because it also coincided with the time when I just gotten into the university. And the stereotype, like you probably know the stereotypes about when girls go into uni and all the all the crazy things they're going to start doing. And so I went to the University of Lagos, and in fact I had a friend who is still my friend, and he literally made a bet with me that this was where the things I was going to do and how I was going to turn out. I'm like, me, I'm not a can never be me type person. And I don't think that saying I would not be that person in that conversation was the most important thing. I felt like what was most important for me was what I did and who I became after the conversation. So I got into the university. I was about 16 at the time, and I was already curious. I had questions. I had just lost my mom about 4 years before that. So it was still fresh. It was fresh because there's also this thing about, needing more female presence when you're about to start doing big girl stuff like go to university, so I didn't have that. And so I had questions. Losing my mom to, cancer was not, it was not just easy to accept, especially because she was a Christian. In fact, the first Christian in our family. So I was curious essentially, but I was never averse to how much some of the things in Christianity don't make logical sense. I was just curious. I was neutral. I was like, okay, So I remember clearly one day a friend of mine, well, we're no longer friends, but at the time we were friends, she tweeted something and she was like, who wants to hear from God? And I'm like, huh?
Yeah. So you just came across it.
Yeah, like what I was used to then was that hearing from God was not that straightforward. And for someone I knew to just say who wants to hear from God.
It's very
I'm like,
random.
okay, I want to hear. Like, that sounds relatable. Like, I want to hear. So it ended up being a meeting with about 5 to 6 or 7 other girls at the chapel at University of Lagos. Okay. And I was astounded by something completely different. I was astounded at how beautiful all these girls were. I was like, what do you mean all of you are, serious Christians? Because there's also something we were used to when we were growing up, is that there's a way Christianity looks like.
Yep.
At the time, it was you don't wear earrings, you have natural hair, a kind of texture of natural hair. If your natural hair looked like your current extensions, no, it was not Christian enough. So that was what I knew. But seeing girls that were so beautiful, so well put together, so eloquent in the things of the spirit, I'm like, there's no reason I can't be like this. So for me, it was a relatability factor. I needed to see people who were like me to fully understand the depths of what I could become. Because like I've mentioned previously, I'm someone who, I don't want to be stifled. I don't want any expressive side of myself to be stifled. And so if you're telling me that to be a Christian, I have to look, feel, and sound a certain way, I don't know. But I didn't know better, because that's not the basis of Christianity. It's not how people look or how they sound. It's what they believe and who they become. But I didn't know that. So for me, it was just seeing those girls. One of them is still my, like really good friends, Ezine Zara. And, she even started like a community then that she was the leader of True Christianity. And I was like, just seeing her, like, we're not age mates. She's slightly older, but we're in the same age bracket. And I'm like, I can do this too. Like, she's very beautiful. They're all beautiful. They were giving prophecies up and down, speaking in tongues. And I was like, I've never seen this in my life before. So, that for me was it. It was not even the power of God that was moving there. That was not what compelled me. I was very much in my right senses. I was not under the spirit. It was just seeing them. So there's something about representation, and that's why I would always be big on people being who they truly are supposed to be. Obviously in moderation, and within the right boundaries. But you don't know how many people you are failing to reach by trying to be someone else. If I didn't have that experience, I don't know. I probably would. God would have found other creative ways to really find me, but that was what that was the method he used, and I've been forever transformed just because of that.
Yeah. And I think what's funny is this thing that you said about how you got there and you felt a sense of relatability.
Yeah.
Or, you were just moved more by what you could see. I feel like when I first attended CCI, that was like a feeling that I got where I saw other young people that kind of looked like me, because my introduction
CCI Celebration Church.
Celebration Church International, an amazing church. So my introduction to Christianity or faith was, I grew up in an apostolic church, like a CAC church.
Yeah.
And this thing you said about like no earrings, no, that was always my thinking. And I had a lot of questions that I was too afraid to ask the people in that setting.
Yeah.
And I noticed that as I grew older and I started focusing more on the relationship aspect of it rather than the norms or the rules
the culture
exactly of it, I felt like it made it easier. Even now, I feel like there are some questions I have in my life where it's only God that can answer them, and I think that's what I used to remind myself that it's important for me to have that relationship. So I find that very interesting, because I was not expecting you to say that. That was
for
how
sure.
it started,
Like,
for you.
God is not afraid of our questions. The only thing is, are you ready for the answers you will get? Because God does not think, his thoughts are not our thoughts, his ways are not our ways. And so I find that a lot of people go to God with questions with preconceived answers, and so when he doesn't give you that answer, you're like, no, you're not real, you're not God, you don't care about me. But till today, the loss of my mother, it's become something of joy for me. I'm like, you know what, God, thank you. Like, and that came about now understanding the concept of death, not being a final, like, death is only sad because we are human, but when you believe in Christ Jesus, death is actually not the end. Death is actually a portal to another life with Christ. And oh my God, like, sometimes I'll give anything to be with Jesus right now. Like, because what's really even in this world? We are just waiting. Everything we're doing in life is just a waiting game to get to that final. If you do believe, like, it's just a waiting game to go and meet with God. So, I mean, I'm happy my mom is there. Like, she did believe, and that's a thing of joy. Like, I would have been sad if, she died and I wasn't sure if she was a believer, because I'm like, oh my God, what's her faith going to be? But she's in heaven for sure, 100%. So my mindset about losing her changed. Obviously, it's still humanly painful.
For sure.
That void will always kind of be there, and I'm praying to God that, like, when I get married, I have a mother-in-law who, is really loving and caring and present, because that female presence, like, I miss it, and I imagine, a lot of times I imagine what my life would be with just having a mother, because I've had to just be, me and my senior sister, we've had to just be like the mothers, so yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So to kind of just trickle our way to the end of the conversation, just to close
which
down.
is so sad, because I've been enjoying this yapping session.
I know, I wish I could ask you. I have a lot of questions.
Is there any reason why we can't do it?
Because of the time constraint with each episode. But yeah, so if you were to give, some advice to like the 20...
Let's do one question before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to do one question?
Advice? Yeah, just one more question.
Okay, so I was going to ask a question centered around community and friendships for you in the course of your life. And because my question was going to be, what keeps you centered in the pursuit of fulfillment with everything that you do? But then I just thought to ask that in terms of community and friendship, how do you navigate that?
So faith keeps me centered, but hey, this is not a faith-based podcast. Like, I can go on and on about that. But money keeps me centered too. I can't even lie. When I have money, I can think straight. When I don't, I can think straight too. Can't lie. But let's be real, like, having that, just not having to worry about where your next meal is going to come from, or like your house rent, just the basics, like, it keeps me centered. But none of that, like, compares to the impact of people. Because there are things you go through and you're like, not even money can solve this problem right now. Or you ask yourself, like, where am I going to get this kind of money if not through people? So I'm a people over profit type person. I don't know if my mind is going to change in the future. Hopefully not. But even when I do business, I'm like, if you have people who can run with a vision, who can run with a cause that is so dear to your heart, more than you sometimes, then you have something invaluable. So I would say, like, I'm becoming more intentional with friendships.
Yeah.
I like to think that right now I am at the point where I would prefer to nurture the friendships I currently have, but I'm always open. I'm always like, I'm not going to stop a good person from coming into my life. There's this popular quote on social media that you've not met all the people who will love you. And I do believe that, especially even as a single woman who wants to be married. Like, I've not met all the people because I've not met my husband. So it's not possible that I've met all the people who can love me. So, but I do really believe like in people over, people like, because sometimes we're falling into this extreme of, is lonely at the top, me against the world. No, people, even people that are not so close. For example, I can't start to tell you how much of like a pillar of support Pastor Aaron of Celebration Church has been. Maybe not personally, but just from doing his own thing, listening to his messages, being under his spiritual guidance. It's like it helps. So yeah, I'm definitely like a people over profits. And profits in this case is not just monetary. It's kind of like whatever I think I can gain. I'm not meeting someone and thinking, what can I get from you? If anything, I'm thinking, how can we just have conversations? How can I even serve? I'd rather that over what can you give me or what can I get. I'm definitely not an upfront transactional person, and one big skill I have is being able to sniff out when people are trying to be transactional with me. Like, I can tell from miles away you're not real, so just it's kind of like get thee behind me. But in the course of building a real connection, there will be things that we would get from each other. I like to say something that I'm not entitled, but I have expectations. So yeah.
I like that. I feel like you dropped a lot of gems.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so now the final question would be, if you were to give some advice to like the 20-something-year-old girl who's watching this podcast when it comes to like, and not just even, let me like pigeonhole like it to that, but like if you just give advice to women who are trying to build a life of substance, who feel like they are chasing fulfillment, what sort of building blocks would you give them?
This is hard because there's usually a lot of things, but I'll try to summarize as much as I can. First thing I'll say is you have to believe in the higher being and power that is in control of your life, who is God in person of Jesus Christ. You can't really do much without that. But the funny thing is, in this day and age, you can feel like you are doing much on your own without God. But I can't tell you how many mistakes have been averted from me, how many decisions that end up being the right ones that have been led by being in tune with the Spirit. That's that is the most important thing. And the other thing I would say is, you have to learn to be so comfortable with yourself. I think that too many people are trying to use a template of other people to create who they think they're supposed to be, but you're not Canva. Like, you're not a Canva. Like, you're not a Canva design.
Literally.
You're not a Canva design where you can change the font, change the logo. Like, there's a blank slate. Like, on Canva, like, you can either create a new document. So you're blank, and you're blank slate, and there's your own unique elements. You're your own unique font. Why am I using design? Like, you're your own unique color, and being comfortable with yourself doesn't mean leaning into the hyper toxic positivity thing where you think there's nothing wrong and you think you can silence away bad vibes instead of working on it. It means you're also able to sit down with the things that are not so beautiful about you and look at yourself, like maybe literally or not, and have those hard conversations with yourself. I think for me, 2021, I will always remember, was a very pivotal time for me doing this. I realized so many things that were wrong almost to a fault. Almost like I started believing that I was problematic in my relationships, because imagine living for such a long amount of time and you get to the point where maybe you meet someone or people who make you see the things that you have to work on. So I would say once you do that, nobody really has anything that they can hold up against you, because and you're genuinely working towards becoming a better person. And finally, I would say, like, having the right people. And the right people in this context means people who can bring out the side of you that you want to see. I don't think we're made to do it all alone. I don't think we were created to try and be career women, mothers, sisters, wives, partners, all alone. There are those specially made people somewhere in the world whose purposes align with yours as well. So find them, and when you find those people, just do as much as you can to not end those relationships prematurely. Be humble, apologize when you need to, but also like know when to walk away from things that just don't serve you. So God, yourself, and people.
Yeah, I love that. This was amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I still have questions, but
no, we can always
because
talk
of
like
the
off this.
time.
I think it's time to start my own podcast, because
Yes.
I'm just
Do
talking.
you
I'm
know,
like,
I was going to ask that, aside like your normal, I mean, you have these videos on like your Instagram where you're talking, but would like podcasting, is this something that you'd ever like want
for sure,
to
I think
do?
podcasting is just a way of publishing your thoughts.
Fair.
I don't see it as, I'm doing a podcast to be a star. It's like, I have things to say, and the world needs people who are comfortable sharing, better ideas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emphasis on the better.
Yeah.
And I get that. I feel like that's why a lot of people have like preconceived notions about podcasts.
Yeah.
So when you ask them to come on, they're like,
I enjoy this. It's just publishing your thoughts, and I have a lot of good thoughts. Like, people have good thoughts, and the world definitely needs more of that. Yeah. That's how you cancel the ones with nonsense thoughts, either way, by creating good ones. So
by providing quality conversation.
I'll think about it. This was really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for agreeing to come on. We're going to put your handles on the screen, so please everybody go and follow her and everything that she does, because you are bound to like learn something and be inspired. So yes, this was another episode of Women with Audacity. Follow us everywhere, stream every episode, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.